In a major blow to the Trump regime's horrific immigration policies, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is on his way back to the United States from El Salvador. Here's the latest from ABC News.
What we know is that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is back on his way from El Salvador to the United States. He's flying here and should land late this afternoon in the United States. Now, we're told by sources that he's on his way back because he is facing criminal charges. He's been indicted by a federal grand jury, an indictment that remains under seal on charges related to human trafficking. So once in the United States, he will face federal criminal charges for allegedly transporting undocumented migrants within the United States. And as you mentioned, that stems from what we've reported on previously, that 2022 Tennessee Highway Patrol traffic stop where Abrego Garcia was pulled over for speeding. He was in that car with 8 other people who he was transporting. He was originally let go with a warning by the sheriffs, but those sheriffs were speculating off camera that that could be related to potentially transporting undocumented migrants. Now, it's important to note here that this investigation, these federal charges, did not really get put into motion until April. That was weeks after he was deported and after the government admitted that he was mistakenly deported. So this federal investigation started when he was already in El Salvador. We are told by sources that an indictment could be unsealed as soon as today.
All right, I want to break this down. Garcia was secretly indicted last month in Nashville on 2 felony charges: transporting undocumented immigrants and conspiring with others to do so. The indictment was only unsealed today after the Trump regime finally admitted Garcia was back in U.S. custody. But this is the reality. The charges are flimsy at best. Back in 2022, Garcia was pulled over during a traffic stop. He was driving several passengers, and while there was suspicion he might be transporting them for money, he wasn't ticketed and he wasn't charged for the crime at the time. He was let go with a warning for driving with an expired license. That was it. This comes after Judge Paula Zenas, the judge presiding over the Garcia case, handed the Trump regime 2 major losses in the fight to return Garcia to the U.S. earlier this week. First, Judge Zenas ordered the DOJ to unseal documents over the status of Abrego Garcia, including a transcript from the April 30th hearing in Nashville, accusing him of trafficking. Her ruling gave new access to media outlets covering the case. This ruling comes in part from a request from a group of 14 major media outlets and publishers, including Fox, NBC News, CBS News, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and NPR, which filed a motion to unseal records in the Abrego Garcia case. The news outlets cited concerns over the lack of public access, as well as over government efforts, or I should say, lack thereof, to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return to the United States. Hopefully, what's happening now is going to shed some much-needed light on the potentially illegal moves that the Trump regime has been making since it detained Garcia in the first place. Then, in another major hit, Zenas ruled that Abrego Garcia and his lawyers can seek sanctions against the Trump administration in this case. This move now opens a door for Garcia's lawyers to pursue formal penalties if the United States government is found to have acted in bad faith or knowingly defied court orders. And I think that it's pretty clear that both of those things can be shown to have happened because we have eyes and we've seen what Donald Trump Department of Justice has been doing to thwart the courts since the very beginning of this debacle. The wins come after the Trump regime was forced to return another man who was wrongfully deported. A Guatemalan man was deported to Mexico, and he was returned to the United States on Wednesday after the executive branch and the United States government. I keep saying Trump regime, executive branch. This is the government of the United States that has been doing these things. Finally, our government was forced to facilitate the return of this wrongfully detained and deported man, a man who's gay and who had been granted legal asylum in the United States and was protected by a court order from being sent back to Guatemala, where he faced persecution for his sexual orientation. Instead of honoring that ruling, the Trump regime illegally put him on a bus to Mexico, and from there, Mexican authorities deported him to Guatemala, where he was forced into hiding. According to court documents, the man's name is being kept anonymous for his safety. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy later condemned the government's actions as, quote, lacking any semblance of due process, unquote, and ordered officials to facilitate the man's return. He was sent through a terrifying ordeal for simply seeking safety from persecution because of his sexual orientation. But thanks, and it took a long time, but thanks to legal advocates and this crucial court victory, the man is now back on U.S. soil, where his fight to stay continues. And this is one of the biggest problems. Yes, these rulings are good news. They are a good sign. Maybe the tide is turning, but think about how long it has taken just to get to the point where these people who have been wrongfully detained, illegally deported, and wrongfully incarcerated, in some cases in gulags, are forced into hiding in order to protect themselves, just to be at the beginning of the journey towards some semblance of justice. As it turns out, the Trump regime's immigration losses this week aren't just confined to courtrooms. But before we go on, please remember that we here at Mary Trump Media are not corporate media. We don't bend the knee. We are not for sale now, and we never will be. Every day, we expose the lies the Trump regime tells and wants to keep buried. Independent media survives because of you. So please like and share our videos. And if you support our mission, subscribe to our channel. Okay, not just the courts. Communities around the country are also refusing to back down. Donald and DHS, that's Department of Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem, are learning the definition of fuck around and find out when it comes to the ICE raids that are ongoing in communities across the United States. Some of those communities are not taking kindly to ICE officers invading their towns and trying to steal their residents. Nowhere has this been more clear than in San Diego, where furious crowds blocked ICE agents who were trying to raid a local restaurant. Take a look at this footage directly from the scene.
Shame! 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 Back up! Yeah, back up! That's right! That's right! Back the fuck up! Back up! You guys are fucking Nazis! Get the fuck out of here, you fucking Nazis!
Well, that seems clear. Residents shouting shame and many other choice words at these cowardly officers who don't even have the guts to show their faces. And they were forced back and forced out of the town. This is the kind of stunning and successful rebuke we need everywhere ICE is showing up to do harm to this country's immigrants. As I said, this is happening not just in San Diego, it's happening everywhere. This week, Massachusetts saw loud protests and major public outcry after ICE kidnapped a high school junior named Marcelo Gomez da Silva while he was on his way to volleyball practice. They detained him. ICE was actually looking for his father and claimed that the kid's arrest was nothing more than collateral damage. Take a look at this clip from the protest that was held at Marcelo's high school, one that was led by his classmates. The community fought hard for its own, demanding that Marcelo be released. Even Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey came out, calling the arrest disturbing and outrageous. Luckily, these efforts worked, and Da Silva was released on bond Thursday, but he took his shot to stand up for the immigrants being kidnapped across the country. He spoke to the press in order to defend those with whom he was held at the detention center. Take a look at what he had to say.
Most people down there are all workers. They all got caught going to work, and like these people have families, man. Like they have kids to go home to, and there's like genuine criminals out there that people aren't giving attention to. They're getting good people that don't deserve to be here.
It is, of course, despicable that that child was put through this ordeal, but that's what courage looks like. To take that horrific experience and to turn it into a moment of learning for the American people, most of whom don't seem to care what's going on and don't understand the toll, the cruel actions of ICE and the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump regime are taking, not just on our immigrants, but on their communities. And those of us who actually care about human rights and things like due process. I would prefer that there not be a need for the kinds of remarks that Marcelo da Silva gave there. However, as long as ICE and the Department of Homeland Security are running rampant through our neighborhoods and illegally detaining American citizens, immigrants who are here legally, immigrants who are not here legally, we do need to see more people willing to stand up and grab the spotlight. We need to see more communities uniting, banding together to push back against the incursions and the illegal activities of ICE agents who, again, don't even have the guts to show their faces. Maybe then more Americans will understand what is going on and what is at stake. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.